If I want to evaluate the inequality x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x is greater than or equal to negative 12, I begin by moving everything to one side. So I will add 12 to both sides. And I get x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12 is greater than or equal to 0. I next factor completely. When I see four terms, I think about factoring by grouping. I group my first two terms, x cubed minus 3x squared, and factor in x squared to leave behind x minus 3. I group my next two terms, negative 4x plus 12, and notice that if I factor a negative 4, I will leave behind exactly x minus 3. I notice that I have a common factor of x minus 3. When I take it out, I will have x minus 3 times x squared minus 4 is greater than or equal to 0. I notice that x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares, so I can use my special formula to factor, and I get x minus 3 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. I identify my zeros. The value that makes x minus 3 0 is positive 3. The value that makes x plus 2 0 is negative 2. The value that makes x minus 2 0 is positive 2. I create a number line and I place my zeros in proper numerical order. So I will have negative 2, positive 2, and positive 3. Thus I have four testing areas: values less than negative 2, values between negative 2 and positive 2, values between positive 2 and positive 3, and values larger than positive 3. I plug into x minus 3 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. I choose a value less than negative 2, say negative 3. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative. If I multiply a negative times a negative times a negative, I will get negative. I choose a value between negative 2 and positive 2, say 0. 0 minus 3 is negative. 0 plus 2 is positive. 0 minus 2 is negative. A negative times a negative would give me a positive. I choose a value between 2 and 3, say 2.5. 2.5 minus 3 is negative. 2.5 plus 2 is positive. 2.5 minus 2 is positive. If I multiply a negative times a positive, I will get negative. I choose a number larger than 3, say 4. 4 minus 3 is positive. 4 plus 2 is positive. 4 minus 2 is positive. If I multiply a positive times a positive, I will get positive. I look back at my original problem and notice that I need values that are greater than or equal to 0. So we are looking for the pluses. So between negative 2 and positive 2, and bigger than 3. Because our sign is greater than or equal to, we include the zeros. So our solution will be negative 2 to positive 2, using brackets because we include the endpoints, union with 3 with a bracket to infinity.